Hello and welcome to grammar class. Today's topic is the object and its kinds. So what is the object in English grammar? Well, the noun or pronoun in the predicate that is affected or governed by the verb or preposition is called the object. So we understand that an object is a part of the predicate and it is affected by the action of the verb or governed by the preposition. In other words, a verb or a preposition has an object in the sentence. So the object in the predicate may be a noun or a pronoun or a noun equivalent, meaning a gerund or an infinitive or a noun phrase or noun clause. Now see some examples of the different forms of objects in the sentences. In the sentence, he loves chocolates. Chocolates, which is a noun, is the object of the verb loves. In the second sentence, to play is an infinitive, which is the object of the verb want. In the third sentence, swimming, a gerund, is the object of the verb like. And then in the fourth sentence, his old car, which is a noun phrase, is the object of the verb had sold. And in the last sentence, she lives in a big house. A big house is a noun phrase which is the object of the preposition in. So you see, a preposition and its object come together to form a prepositional phrase, like in a big house in this case. You must be knowing that intransitive verbs have no object. In the sentence, the girls are dancing. Are dancing is an intransitive verb, so it has no object. But as you know, transitive verbs take one or more objects. For example, in the sentence, I am writing a poem, the noun a poem is the object of the transitive verb I am writing. We can identify the object in a sentence quite easily by just asking a question with whom or what after the verb. For example, I am writing what? The answer is a poem. So a poem is the object of the verb writing. We know that some transitive verbs like give, ask, tell, promise, gift, offer, etc. take two objects. The object that names a thing or something is called the direct object, while the indirect object denotes a human being. For example, in the sentence, father gifted me a mobile phone, me is the indirect object and a mobile phone is the direct object. Take another example. I am teaching you grammar. Here the pronoun you denotes a human being, so it's the indirect object, and grammar is a thing, so it is the direct object. Now remember, generally the indirect object comes before the direct object in the sentence. But if you want to put the indirect object after the direct object, you have to use the preposition to or for before the indirect object in the sentence. For example, father gifted a mobile phone to me. I am teaching grammar to you. In both these sentences, the direct objects, a mobile phone and grammar, are coming before the indirect object. So, the preposition to has come before the indirect objects, me and you respectively. But what is called the retained object in English grammar? Well, as I said earlier, some transitive verbs take two objects, and when such a transitive verb is changed into the passive voice, either the indirect or the direct object becomes the subject of the sentence. And whichever object becomes the subject of the sentence, the other object is called the retained object. In other words, if the indirect object becomes the subject of the sentence in passive voice, the direct object becomes the retained object and vice versa. For example, in the active sentence, I taught him English, him is the indirect and English is the direct object of the verb taught. And as you can see, if the indirect object him becomes the subject he in the passive voice, the direct object English is the retained object in the sentence. In the same way, if the direct object English is made the subject in the passive voice, the indirect object him is called the retained object in the sentence. Up next, we have the cognate object in English grammar. Well, as you know, intransitive verbs have no object. However, there are some intransitive verbs which take after them an object identical or similar in meaning to the verb itself. Such an object is called the cognate object in English grammar. A cognate object is always a noun. For example, in the sentence, he smiled a wicked smile, smiled is an intransitive verb, but its object smile is a noun quite similar or identical to the verb smiled itself. Hence, it's a cognate object of the verb smiled. Similarly, in the second sentence, fight is the cognate object of the verb fought, and in the third sentence, sleep is the cognate object of the verb slept, while in the last sentence, the verb singing has the cognate object song. Reflexive pronouns such as myself, himself, yourself, etc. also act as objects of the reflexive verbs. Such objects refer to the same person or thing as the subject of the sentence. In these three examples, enjoyed, hurt and pamper are reflexive verbs, and reflexive pronouns myself, himself and yourself are their objects respectively. Next, we have the adverbial object. As the name suggests, when a noun is used as an adverb to modify a verb or adjective or adverb, it's called an adverbial object in the sentence. For example, in the sentence, I am going home, home is a noun which is modifying the verb going, hence it is serving as an adverb here. So, home is the adverbial object of the verb going. In the second sentence, he walked 10 kilometers. Kilometers is a noun which is modifying the verb walked by showing the distance of walking. Hence, it is the adverbial object of the verb walked. In the third sentence, a minute is a noun which is the adverbial object of the verb wait because it is modifying the verb wait by indicating the duration of the action of waiting. And in the last sentence, the noun phrase 1,000 rupees is the adverbial object of the verb cost. And then we have the factitive object. There are some transitive verbs that require an additional object to make the sense complete. Such an additional object is known as the factitive object. And a transitive verb requiring a factitive object is called a factitive verb. In the first sentence, they made him captain. Captain is the additional object required to make the sense complete. Hence, captain is the factitive object of the verb made. In the second sentence, a fool is the factitive object of the verb called. In the third example, we elected him does not make a complete sense without the factitive object president. Now, the complementary object is always a noun. It's the additional object which comes after the expression to be and indicates the first object of the verb in the sentence. For example, in the sentence, I know him to be a scholar, the noun a scholar is the complementary object after to be in addition to the first object him. Similarly, smugglers is the complementary object in the second sentence. So now that we have understood all about the object and its kinds in English grammar, we must remember that verbs of incomplete predication or linking verbs such as be, become, seem, appear, look, etc. do not have an object. They take a complement which is either a noun or an adjective to make the sense complete. In the two examples on your screen, the adjective intelligent and the noun a singer are the complements of the linking verbs is and become respectively. Hopefully you liked this video. Please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel for more grammar videos. Thank you.